Okay, I'm super glad that Bernie Sanders won New Hampshire's primary. And it's very obvious what the cable news or the media companies are doing at the moment. They just want to tarnish his reputation. And obviously, when you look at the way they were conducting interview for Bernie Sanders versus, say, Pete Buttigieg, you can see the differences, obviously. And no one is under any delusion here that what they wanted to do. They obviously want to push the candidate which going to benefit them in the future. So if Bernie Sanders become president, it's very likely that he will uh, pass policies which will affect these bigger media companies. So they have a vested interest in tarnishing his reputation. And more than that, the most fucked up part of all of this shit show is that they are not even looking at the policies he's proposing. They still don't get it that it's not about him, it's about us. That's, is his motto. And they just sort of make it a personality contest instead of a contest of ideas. And I guess the media companies are in it for a huge surprise, unless the DNC sort of rig the system to force progressive voice such as Bernie Sanders into submitting to another hack like they did back in 2016. And obviously we are all seeing what happened because of that. Trump is the president. And if they continue to do this and rig the system against Bernie Sanders, it's very, very, very likely that Trump will retain his, presidency for 4 more years. It's not, uh, it's not a kind of like it doesn't take a lot of rational to kind of figure this out. I mean, if you look at the events and different timeline, you can totally see that when Hillary Clinton rigged the primaries against Bernie Sanders, that actually paved the way for Trump. And don't take it from me, Trump actually said that himself. He said that in one of the elite dinner which he hosted, and he said that if Hillary would have chosen Bernie as her running mate, then you know it would have been much tougher for him to beat Hillary. But obviously, that would not have happened anyways. I mean, Hillary is an establishment hack, and she would never choose a progressive member as her running mate. And that being said, when Trump thinks that Bernie was more difficult candidate to beat back in 2016, then nothing has changed since then. In fact, things have gone for the worse. If you look at the social issues, if you look at the economic issues, and I know a lot of people would be like, but why the hell? Economy is booming. You have to look at the bigger picture. Why is economy booming? It is because of the deficit. It's like I borrow a loan from bank. If I borrow like $1 million from a bank and show everyone that I'm a millionaire, yeah, on paper I may look rich, but actually I am not because I still owe the money, and that's exactly what is happening with deficit as well. In Trump's presidency, the deficit have risen all the way to $1 trillion. Let that sink in. And uh, pumping all of that deficit into the market give an illusion that economy is booming. And yeah, one of the consequences of that is that the job market has become better. And to be honest, I am glad that the job market has become better so that, more and more people can get into the job market, even though I have like a lot of different opinions about that. But that being aside, uh, it's all a sham in the sense it's all on the surface. Economy is not booming. It's the deficit which give an illusion that economy is booming. And especially when it comes to economy, most of the indicators are showing other way around. The deficit, the lifestyles of the people, uh, the only positive index or indicator is the stock market, which if you understand how stock market works, and moreover who are investing into stock market, you can clearly see that the most of the people are not invested into stock market. When Republicans, or in this case Trump, I want to say awarded, which is sort of true. I mean, he created this economic policy which benefited the rich. They got away with like billions of dollars of tax cut, which they reinvested into the stock market and inflated the stock market as a whole. So that's the bigger picture of it. But people who does not invest in stock market, which is majority of the people living here, they are not getting the returns on stock market, obviously, and their lifestyle haven't changed much other than the job market, which is why when the companies create new jobs, because of all the tax benefits they got, that's a trickle down economy, right? Uh, that give an illusion that things are working out well. But the thing about trickle down economy is the one on the top eat the largest share. So if you are, comparing it with nature, a tiger eat the largest portion of the meat and just leave the crumbs for wolves and other animals like vultures. But the difference is, in this analogy, the difference is the tiger actually hunt for its food. Here, the government is just giving away the money to the billionaires who already have a lot of money to begin with. Anyways, that's uh, that's a conversation for another time. But I do want to go over the NBC's interview with Bernie Sanders, and especially Chuck Todd. Some of the points which he raised was so ridiculous that it's hilarious to watch. And there are like few tidbits towards the end, which is super interesting. And when you look at it, you'll be surprised. But let's watch this.
In Iowa, what voters here in New Hampshire confirmed tonight is nothing short of the beginning of a political revolution.
Welcome back. That was exactly 4 years ago to the day, if you saw the little date stamp up there, after Bernie Sanders defeated Hillary Clinton by a whopping 22 points in the 2016 New Hampshire primary. There aren't going to be any 22-point wins this year.
That's such ingenious statement because obviously, there are more candidates here. That's how math work.
This year's primary has become a real toss-up between Sanders, Buttigieg, and perhaps even more in this field. And Senator Bernie Sanders joins me now. Welcome back to Meet the Press, sir.
Good to be with you.
I want to talk about a little bit of Iowa and 16 a little bit. You are a believer that your candidacy is about turning people out. At the end of the day, turnout was disappointing. You have admitted that in Iowa. If we don't see record-breaking turnout here, does this undermine the biggest point you make on electability, which is nobody else can bring out the young vote, but you, but if you can't get other voters, isn't that an issue?
And that's another stupid statement. Look at who is the biggest vote segment, right? So young people are the biggest or the largest voting segment. and he, when I say he, Bernie did bring a lot of young voters into the polling booth. So he's just brushing off that altogether.
Well, you know what? You're right. The voter turnout in Iowa was not what I wanted. And I think other candidates were not able to bring out their voters as well. But at the end of the day, we won the Iowa vote by 6,000. We won the realignment vote by 2,500. And from where I come, by the way, that's a victory. But here's something really important, not talked about a whole lot. The young vote of people under 29 years of age increased by 33% over where it was 4 years ago.
There you go. That's exactly what I was talking about. The number of young voters who came into polling booth were like drastically better than 2016. Like Bernie said, 33% more.
And was even higher than Obama's extraordinary victory in 2008. So young people did come out in very big numbers, which I think is a great omen for the 2020 campaign.
Except you can't win voters outside of that very well. I mean, you were in single digits among older voters, and I say this because older voters vote.
The answer is,
well, older voters vote, and there are not many older voters, and a lot of older voters are Republican because, you know, that's how, if you look at the generation of voters, you can totally see that there are more older voters are Republicans. So it's actually more important to bring in younger voters than more, you know, older voters. But let's just see.
yes and no. The answer is we are having, and we have got to work on this issue because my record for senior citizens is a very strong record, and we're going to work on that. I'm the strongest defender you could see in defending Social Security and so forth. But in terms of Democrats, in terms of running against Trump, we do just fine with senior citizens. Will vote for me against Trump if they're Democrats.
You have been railing in the different ways other people raise money.
Yes.
Okay, so this is going to be another stupid argument. And sorry if I'm like pausing very frequently. One of the reasons why I'm doing so is because this is my very first reaction video, and from what I understand, if I play some other channel's video for over 30 seconds, I might get a strike or a violation. So I want to make sure that I don't get into trouble. Especially, I don't even have a good good amount of subscribers or a huge presence to begin with. So, sorry.
For the nominee, Michael Bloomberg has said if he's not the nominee, he still wants to spend all his money defeating Donald Trump. Are you going to refuse that help?
Well, look, let's talk about money in politics. Right now, our campaign, as you know, at this moment, has received more campaign contributions from more Americans, averaging but it's $18.50 than any candidate in the history of the American politics. That's extraordinary. We are funded by the working families of America. Teachers are the profession that is contributing most. We get a lot of contributions from Amazon workers and so forth. We have, unlike my opponents, Pete Buttigieg, who was just here, really nice guy. I like Pete. He has received, I believe, over contributions from over 40 billionaires. Joe Biden, the same.
Can a billionaire not have an issue about income inequality?
Okay, so here's the thing. First of all, if Bloomberg want to spend money on defeating Trump, yeah, he can do all he want to. He can just create different ads, pointing out all the fucked up thing Trump did. He doesn't have to give money to Bernie Sanders, presuming Bernie Sanders will be the nominee. So these are two separate things. Bernie don't have to accept money from billionaires in order to drive a message against Trump. If a billionaire want to do that, they can still create their negative ads against Trump and do that. That's such a stupid thing to say that Bernie should accept the money from billionaires.
Billionaire not be wanting to see expanded health care. I mean, these are individuals too.
They are. And Mike Bloomberg has every right in the world to run. He was mayor of New York City. He has a right to defend his record. But I think it speaks to a corrupt political system when billionaires can buy elections. You want to run for president? That's fine. But but you should not be able to, spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, by the way, to answer your question, because of the broad base of support that we have from working families, now they may only contribute $25 or $50. We will be able to raise the money we need to defeat Trump, and I believe we are the strongest candidate to defeat Trump.
You don't want this help, or do you think?
So here's the other statement. What do these nominees use this money for? To get more attention in the media, right? So if the media is already giving them the attention like they did to Trump, they don't need this money, so to speak. And the second thing is when millions of people are giving and contributing to Bernie's campaign, he already is raising the most money out of all the candidates. So he don't have to accept more money. And more money does not necessarily mean, winning election. We already saw that back in 2016. So that's such a stupid argument to make in the first place.
Look, right now,
you think a wealthy, look, you have PACs helping you. They're not necessarily super PACs, but you have some outside groups that are helping you. Maybe you don't want them to help you right now. I don't want them, that's right. But they are. Yeah. And there's people, there's $500,000.
Some of them are nurses. Some would call it
dark money, yeah.
Some of them are nurses, and some of them are immigration activists, and some of them are civil rights activists. I
understand that. Yeah. Do you not want their help?
We have a system which is broken.
I understand that.
I'm saying right now, if my opponents say they don't want that third-party help, I'm all for that right now. Let's end it.
But right now, you'll accept the help as long as they're going to get help.
It's legal. What can I do? That people have a right to participate in the political process. But again, getting back to the fundamental issue, the reason we have so much income inequality, the reason we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people, the reason that almost all new income and wealth goes to the top 1% is precisely because of a corrupt political system which allows billionaires to have inordinate influence over the economic and political life of the country.
All right.
But Chuck Todd don't want to understand that. I feel like most of this media personalities, they already know that. It's just that they have to play this role of being an ignorant.
Right. The other issue that has the Democratic establishment, and you're sort of...
Are they nervous? Do you think they're getting nervous?
They get nervous.
Okay.
And there's one word that gets them nervous. It's the word socialism.
Democratic.
I understand the democratic socialism. Do you acknowledge...
Do you, Chuck? Do you know what is democratic socialism?
That in an economy that on its surface, and I understand it is not working for everybody, but on its surface looks pretty good to quite a few people. This is a fairly low unemployment rate. Do you acknowledge it's tougher to sell your economic ideas in this perceived good economy?
I don't think so. I think Trump is a fraud. I think under Trump, the top 1% have seen hundreds of billions of dollars increase in their wealth. Do you know what real inflation accounted for increase in wages last year was for the average worker? It was less than 1%.
But it's first time.
So that's the economic indicator I was talking about. Like, how much changes are the real people feeling with this inflated economy?
But it had gone up in a while.
17 cents an hour.
Hadn't been going up for over a decade.
It's been not. But how do you talk about an economy that's working when the people on top are making hundreds of billions of dollars more, and the average worker is making 17 cents? We need an economy that works for working people.
Yeah.
And my agenda is that agenda. That's raising the minimum wage. That's health care for all. That's making sure that all of our kids, regardless of their income, can get to college or to trade school by imposing a modest tax on Wall Street speculation.
So this is another great point from Bernie. And also, if you look at the laws in some sense, right? Like there are physical laws and there are in some unspoken law of how things work. And how things work is power begets power, money begets money. So if you are millionaire, then it's relatively easier for you to become, let's just say, if you have 1 million, it's relatively easier to get to 20 million. But if you are just surviving, then it's almost impossible to become a millionaire. So it's easier to grow from 1 million to 20 million, then from 0 to 1 million. And that's how things work in general. And it's not just limited to economy or money per se. You can see that in a lot of other aspects. Like, that's why a lot of famous people get more work because they are already known and their work is already appreciated. No doubt they put a lot of hard work in it, but it's very tough to create presence when there is no audience at all, like me. But it would be easier if I have 100,000 subscribers to go from there to say 500,000 subscribers.
That likes their 401k right now but doesn't like the character of Donald Trump. How do you convince them to vote for you?
I convinced them to vote for us because we are going to create an economy that works for the middle class.
But they think their economy works well for them.
Well, for some of them, it may.
It's been working well. That's
Chuck,
my point.
look, here is the reality. Half of the American people today are living paycheck to paycheck. Today, you got 500,000 people sleeping out on the streets when you got 3 people owning more wealth than the bottom half of America. We're the only country in the world, major country in the world, not to guarantee health care to all people. We got 45 million people struggling with student debt. Please don't tell me that this economy is working well for all people. It is working phenomenally well for Trump's billionaire friends, not for working families.
The reason I bring
So again, the same argument. The 401k, that means that, the people who are actually working in, let's just say, a base salary environment, instead of like per hour, they have a fixed salary, like I do. And when I do have 401k, I invest in stock market and dividends and bonds and other options within that. So I am actually participating in stock market. And when the stock market rises, yeah, the economy is working for me. But people who don't have 401k to begin with, which are majority of the people and in service industry and, in a lot of other industries, they are not vested in stocks, so the economy is obviously not working for them. When you look at the things, you look at like the percentage of the people who are invested versus the percentage of people who are not even participating in the stock market. If you're gauging your economy using stock market, it's so logical that I'm surprised that Chuck cannot understand it.
up the S word, democratic socialism, is because let's just take the swing state of Florida. I grew up in Miami, and I know what they're going to do to you. And they're going to tie socialism to Venezuela. They're going to tie comments you made about Evo Morales in Bolivia.
Yeah, what about Evo Morales?
And they're going to say you will appease socialists in Latin America. You have not condemned them the way others have condemned them, and use that to try to get people, to wedge people. That is what they're going to do.
Well, look, we're dealing with a president who is a pathological liar. So what I'm going to do? I mean, he's going to say anything he wants about me,
right, but
about Joe Biden, about Pete Buttigieg.
You stood behind Evo Morales when it clearly went,
No, I stood with Evo Morales in condemning a coup. I do not like military coups.
He tried to violate his country's constitution.
Well, that's another discussion. I don't know that everybody's interested in Ecuador, but he was overthrown by the military.
Yeah, so if you have any understanding of how the constitution works in your own country and how constitution works in their country, you can look at what happened in Ecuador. I am not expert in that. I'm not even expert in this shit which I'm doing. But the point I'm making is you have to look at things in context. And there's this pattern that whenever there is a movement of people, call it socialism, right? Whenever there is a movement of people in any country, after a few years or decade, the people, the rich and powerful people want to take over. And they do that by, in most of the recent history, by joining forces with other imperialistic countries. Like in this case, it's the United States. And when you see all the regime change which US has caused across the globe, you can see a clear pattern emerge. Like, first of all, US has no business in most of the countries, uh, especially when they are going through their internal conflict. uh, but like in Venezuela, US wanted to go in there so that they can uh, take over in some sense. Or when I say US, I mean US's industries, the companies want to take over the oil from Venezuela. And in fact, very recently there was an article that Venezuela have started privatizing the oil. So uh, we wonder why socialism doesn't work in most of these countries. That's the reason, because whenever you keep the rich and powerful away from making more profits, they combine forces with outsiders in this case, and then create military coup or some sort of disingenuous propaganda to gain power again.
Particularly good president. We got a president of the United States who's cozying up to the autocrat Putin, who says nice things about Kim Jong Un. So you want to talk about cozying up the communists around the world? It ain't me. It is Donald Trump.
I kind of agree and disagree here. I mean, it's okay to say nice things about leaders in general, but also I can see that I don't know if Trump's uh, strategy was to kind of lick the butt of all the dictators. I don't know, but that seems to be the case. I mean, he doesn't have any powerful policies to kind of work with these nations, and especially when it comes to dictators, he seems to be just licking their butt. So it could be that he's just talking nice things about them, but behind the back, obviously, he could be not don't care about Kim Jong Un or Putin or other dictators. It's it's not clear, so to speak, but his actions kind of show that he cozy up to dictators for sure. And to be honest, like, he has fascist patterns for sure. I mean, he want to be the sole power of the country without being accountable. So yeah, there is. I'm kind of mixed on that. Yeah.
Let me ask you a few quotes here from some members of Congress who are concerned about your electability. Here's Amy Barra, Democrat in California. If Bernie Sanders is our nominee, it'll make a lot of these Trump districts that we picked up extremely competitive and probably does put our House majority in jeopardy. Connor Lamb, I don't think I'd be doing my job as a representative to these people in Western Pennsylvania, referring to, if I supported someone who wanted to destroy their livelihood. Specifically, he's talking about fracking. Whether fair or not, this is the concern out there among a lot of elected Democrats.
Look, this is part of the establishment Democrats. And what I am suggesting is that we are going to bring, in 2016, and we'll see what happens in 2020, but I think the story will be the same. In a lot of districts which Trump ended up winning, we won during the primary process. Okay, I think a lot of working people understand that Trump is a fraud, that our campaign is, in fact, prepared to take on the billionaire class when Trump is part of the billionaire class. And I think we're going to win a lot of those districts. I think we're going to increase voter turnout among young people very, very substantially.
Will it hurt your candidacy if these candidates say, I don't support his agenda, but I'm running for
re-election? I think at the end of the day, you're going to see, and I have said this and repeat it right now. I think I can speak for all of the Democratic candidates, and that is we will come together to defeat Donald Trump. I hope I am the nominee. I will come behind somebody else if they are the nominee.
Yeah, so I mean, I can see maybe there are going to be areas within the country where they don't like the idea of openly democratic socialist, running for president. But if you look at the entire country, Bernie is now number one. He's leading in all the polls. But not just that. One of the core reason why Trump got elected, as Bernie said, is because the working class want to get rid of status quo. Remember the phrase, drain the swamp? That was a pretty good indicator that people don't want the same old system which or corrupted system which is not working in their favor. So yeah, there's gonna be few places where people may not be on board with the economic and social changes Bernie is promising to bring. But overall, I think throughout the country, people are overwhelmingly with Bernie Sanders.
In September of 2019, before your heart incident, you had said the following about your medical records. Take a listen.
I think it's the right thing to do. The American people have a right to know whether the person they're going to be voting for president is healthy. And we will certainly release our medical records before the primaries. It'll certainly be before the first votes are cast.
Yeah, that's a perfect statement. He is coming from a very logical and rational point.
The first votes have already been cast. You did not release your medical records. You released a few letters. Nobody interviewed your doctors. You did have a heart attack, apparently. Shouldn't voters see your medical records before Super
released
Tuesday?
as much documentation, I think, as any other candidate.
But no other candidates had a heart attack.
Well, look, no other candidate is doing 4 or 5 events a day running all
I
over
hear you.
this country.
No, you've proven, I mean, there's no doubt, you've proven your mettle here, but voters, you heard voters have been concerned about your age.
You can start releasing medical records, it never ends. We have released a substantive part, all of our medical records. We have doctors cardiologists who are confirming that I am in good health. I am in good health.
What changes did the doctors ask you to make that you've made?
I'm trying to walk a little bit more, but the schedule doesn't allow me. They didn't say, so trying to sleep a little bit better. Sometimes that's hard, but I'm feeling great. Thanks.
My guess is winning will help you sleep a little bit better.
Winning will make me sleep a lot better, and I think we're going to do just that.
All right.
It's funny. It's very funny, especially when he get in his swag, so to say. Yeah, that's really funny. But this is one thing which I want to highlight. What Chuck Todd did here. In his head, he was trying to mock Bernie, but I feel that he actually helped Bernie to set a narrative. Let's take a watch.
Senator Bernie Sanders, the independent Democrat from Vermont.
So do you see how he said the independent Democratic? And you can look at the eyes, of Bernie and how he gave him like a look. Okay, I know what you did there.
Thanks for coming on and sharing your views. Be safe on the.
So if I just go back and do that again.
So trying to sleep a little bit better. Sometimes that's hard, but I'm feeling great. Thanks.
My guess is winning will help you sleep a little bit better.
Winning will make me sleep a lot better, and I think we're going to do just that.
All right. Senator Bernie Sanders, the independent Democrat.
Look at his eyes. He's like, okay.
From Vermont. Thanks for coming on and sharing your views. Be safe.
That small pause, nod. It was like, okay, I know what you did there. But I think it helps Bernie, if anything, because saying that he's an independent Democrat instead of a Democrat build more people around him, because people are sick of what Democratic Party represent, and people are sick of what Republican Party represent as well, and that's why the whole drain the swamp movement, or became kind of one of the major issue back in 2016, and it's very, very fascinating to see how this bigger media are using different labels to tag Bernie, depending on what they think helped them, and I'm actually very, very happy when they are actually criticizing Bernie, because that only bring more people in his favor. And there is another video which I'm gonna do later on, where a voter, she switched to Bernie after listening to MSNBC, NBC, and other media news, and how they've been like so critical of Bernie Sanders. So this is eventually what gonna happen. More and more people gonna come in the Bernie camp. So in some sense, media is driving the crowd towards Bernie. So thank you.